Yesterday, General Manager Darren Muji spoke to reporters. Today, it went up to head coach Aaron Glenn and owner Woody Johnson to give their remarks to reporters for the first time in a little while at the owners meetings down in Palm Beach, Florida. A lot of quotes to get into, and we'll break down everything surrounding the New York Jets and much more, all coming up here on a Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by our guy Nick Faria of Jets X Factor here in his weekly spot.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, everyone? Hello and welcome back here to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. We appreciate you all tuning in here on this Monday, March 31st, 2025. Can't thank you guys enough for all your support. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. That's free and it helps us grow significantly. Paid way, help us grow. Super Chats memberships will get you in for our April membership raffle. At the end of the show today, we'll be raffling off our prizes for March. I have all 5 prizes here, so you have a lucky chance. If you gifted a membership or $2.99 Super Chat, each entry, each membership or Super Chat got you a raffle ticket, and you are in our raffle. We will be drawing the winner at the end of the show. We appreciate all your support. Questions, throw them in the chat. Call into the show with the pinned comment. Like, share, and subscribe, guys, please. It really does help us grow here on the channel. Joining me right now here in his weekly spot on the program, my teammate over at JetsXFactor.com, Nick Faria, kind enough to grace us with his presence. And Nick, listening to Aaron Glenn speak today, obviously you weren't in Palm Beach, to my understanding at least. You weren't in Palm Beach, but you covered it for us over at Jets X Factor, and you're hearing the questions. Are you a little intimidated to face AG when he arrives back in New Jersey?
Listen, I don't get really intimidated by anybody. It's just the way it is. I'm a kid from Rhode Island that's covering the NFL. I don't take anything too positive or too negative. It's all just fun and games.
1,000%. I want to get into the main storyline, which not only was with Darren Muji yesterday, but both Aaron Glenn and Woody Johnson, and that was Justin Fields. The Jets really emphasized that they have the utmost confidence in Fields, and they think he's going to do great things for this organization. Multiple times we heard the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold rapid turnarounds reference between Muji, Johnson, and Glenn. What do you think this Justin Fields signing really means for this team, and what potential really does Justin Fields have? Because the term untapped potential is commonly thrown around with Fields, but what do you think the realistic potential, I think is the better word, that the Jets could see with Fields over the next season or two?
Well, I think you look at it and you're looking for competency at the quarterback position, something that the Jets have struggled to find over the last few years. But at the end of the day, I thought the conversation around Justin Fields was very surprising from Aaron Glenn. And I kind of broke it down this morning in one of my pieces at X Factor. But essentially, what you're seeing is Aaron Glenn become the second coming of Bill Parcells, if you will. This no-nonsense guy willing to give it right back to reporters. It's all about competition. It's all about making sure that everyone's competing for a role, except for the quarterback position. And people are going to look and say, well, he did mention, and it's fairness to Aaron Glenn, he did mention that the depth chart is only written in pencil. It can change at any given moment. But to essentially give Justin Fields QB1 status with all the struggles that he has had as a starting quarterback, the fact that he was benched with the Pittsburgh Steelers, we have to remember something. I think the big comparison here is probably the Pittsburgh Steelers. They brought in Justin Fields. They brought in Russell Wilson. And when Mike Tomlin was given the opportunity to say that this was going to be a purely quarterback competition, the best player will play, he didn't do that. He essentially said that Russell Wilson will start a little bit above Justin Fields. And before that, it was Kenny Pickett. That's not a quarterback competition. No rhyme or reason are you going to call that a true quarterback competition. A true quarterback competition is two players competing, equal amount of reps at QB1, going back and forth, and whoever ends up playing the best plays the best. But Justin Fields is being played like a starter. So the fact that you're paying this quarterback like a starter and you're saying that he is QB1, even though he's had all these problems as a quarterback, his quarterback efficiency is terrible. You look at the second half statistics, he's one of the worst fourth quarter quarterbacks in terms of completion percentage over the last 4 seasons. And he is now essentially being given the reins completely to this Jets franchise. I found that very interesting today. The conversation of Fields, the upside is there. No one's going to deny that. He's a great runner. All those things can give the Jets, put the Jets in a position to succeed. No one's denying that. But we can't say in the same breath, oh, this is just like Parcells. He's doing everything like Parcells. But
Yes.
at the quarterback position saying, actually, no, he's kind of playing the company line of we're going to pay you, we're going to play the guy that's making the most money. Then it's not exactly the exact same thing, and you're sort of cutting corners at the quarterback position.
1000%. And I will say this, Nick, something that did bother me was the fact that Woody Johnson and Glenn, those two specifically, not so much Muji, kept referring to Justin Fields as a winner. I love Justin. I like Justin Fields. I don't go as far as say I love him. He was my guy I wanted in free agency just because he's the 26-year-old with the most upside. There's a better chance. I don't think it's going to happen. There's a better chance he's the Jets' long-term answer at quarterback than a Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo is, and their better days are behind them. That's why I wanted Fields. However, I think it's a little much to call someone a winner who's 14-30 in his career, has not solidified himself as, a top quarterback in this league. You're solely betting on his upside and potential. I think it's a little much to call someone like Fields a proven winner when he's 14-30 as a starting quarterback in this league.
That's my point. Exactly. And that's the thing. I'm not sitting there saying that Aaron Glenn is wrong to make this decision. That's not what I'm doing at all.
Exactly.
But he's clearly trying to build a foundation, much like Bill Parcells. But my response to that is, would Bill Parcells hand the reins over to a quarterback one in this instance without any true competition?
And you have a 500 backup who's been more than serviceable.
Putting his foot on the scale to make sure that kind of conversation, that battle happens a certain way. I don't think Parcells would do that. That's kind of why I'm like, the bravado's there, the culture's there. Everything you see is a positive line for the Jets. But if you can do it for one, you got to do it for all, and he's clearly not doing it for all.
Exactly. And I've heard this term tossed around, especially with a lot of people in my chat here a few days ago, about trying to build around Justin Fields. This team should not build around Justin Fields. In my eyes, there's a difference between providing someone with the weapons they need to have success with, and I think the Jets should add some weapons through the draft, whether that be in the first round, whether that be in the third round. I think you need to add a few tight ends to this team. You add another wide receiver through the draft, maybe someone, who's a guy who's still available in free agency. We know Robbie Chosen, formerly known as Robbie Anderson, has expressed his interest in potentially trying to come back with this team. There's a difference between providing someone with the weapons they need to have success with, and I think that's what the Jets should do with Fields, compared to completely building your team around him. And from what I'm hearing right now between Muji, Glenn, and Johnson, it kind of seems like the Jets might be taking the route that I don't want them to go down. They're trying to build around Fields, and we're hearing the all-in method tossed around, Nick. How do you view that? I see you kind of contemplating your thoughts there. Do you think the Jets are really trying to go all in with Fields here and make him the guy?
Well, this is where I will say, I don't know if it's exactly going all in on Justin Fields, because are they going all in on a player like Fields if they draft an offensive lineman and draft weapons and sort of surround him with talent? Or is that preparing the next quarterback, whoever they end up choosing to be the next quarterback, surrounding them with proven talent? For example, if they were to take Armand Membu with a 7th overall pick and they get a guy like Mason Taylor in the 2nd round, you're going to have young rookies. Let's say Justin Fields doesn't work out. They end up drafting a quarterback next year. Now you have Armand Membu. You have the offensive line solidified. You have a young tight end you can develop with them, and Garrett Wilson. Did they boost the offense to surround with Justin Fields or this incoming quarterback? Essentially, every move they make for the offense, they make for the future. Not just for 2025, but for the future. Whether that's with Justin Fields as a starting quarterback or with the next starter end up being a rookie or another veteran, whoever that ends up being.
Now, Nick, another thing I want to get into, speaking of the offensive line, talking about Membu, covered it for Jets X Factor today. Darren Muji revealed that Elijah Vera Tucker will be this team's starting guard. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that because he can play 4 of the 5 offensive line positions. Every position he's shown he's played at the NFL level except center. So there were talks, is he going to be right guard? Is he going to be right tackle? Left guard, obviously, John Simpson, or potentially even not left tackle because of Olu there, obviously. But the Jets make the decision to keep him inside. Membu obviously being tossed around as somewhat of a favorite to be selected with the 7th overall pick. Do you think Darren Muji's potentially tipping his hand here a little by giving Elijah Vera Tucker the starting guard job?
I certainly think that. And quite frankly, what I do believe is that it's not just Membu, but it's also Will Campbell. One of those two, if you look at certain mock
Whoever gets
drafts,
past
are
the
going
Pats,
to
yeah.
end up because if Abdul Carter is at 2 and the Patriots and the Giants take Shedeur Sanders, the Patriots could choose to take Travis Hunter, or they could go with the offensive lineman. They need another receiver, so I'm not exactly sure where they would go in that. Maybe Hunter would be the kind of quality receiver. But let's say they go with Hunter. 6 with the Jaguars, they'll probably go defense, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty to the Raiders, and that essentially gives you the opportunity of both Membu or Campbell. If Membu goes to the Patriots and the Heisman Trophy winner goes to Jacksonville, Ashton Genty at 6, then essentially you take Will Campbell at 6. I see Will Campbell at 7. So the way that I break it down is I think he has fallen in love with both tackles, and he's perfectly fine using both tackles moving forward there.
The only scenario, Nick, where you can convince me the Jets would take Membu is if Muji, changed his mind and you put AVT at right tackle and you put Campbell at right guard. I think Campbell's going to be a guard at the next level, and I think he has the potential to be an all-pro guard. I want someone who's going to be, if you're going to draft Campbell, I want him to be the guard for this team because I think he's a legit all-pro guard. On the flip side, you have AVT entering a contract year who really needs to show who he is to earn another contract with this team. So if the Jets, that's the only way you could really sell me on Campbell. Other than that, Membu isn't my favorite option. I know you love Membu and you think him and Graham should be the top options. But Tyler Warren, I'm leaning more towards playmaker. But again, if the Jets draft Armand Membu, I'm not going to go crazy on draft night. And I do think that's where the Jets are ultimately leading right now. Nick, another nugget from this presser that you covered for Jets X Factor, the Allen Lazard news. We heard from both Muji and Glenn. The Jets are trying to do everything they can to keep Lazard. And I think the Aaron Glenn reasoning was a little funny that he's a good blocker, but you also forget that he had the highest drop rate in the NFL the past 2 seasons, has done nothing without Aaron Rodgers, and they're trying to restructure his contract. I don't care if he's willing to play for the vet minimum. I do not want this guy on my football team. Nick, what do you think the chances are that this guy is on the roster entering week 1?
I kind of go back and forth. It seems that a new report comes out every week that kind of pushes back on it. I think it's 50-50 right now. To save $11 million in cap space will certainly help the organization going into next offseason. Potentially, if they want to pay Elijah Vera Tucker or any of these other players moving forward, they'll help certainly with the Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extensions. But he's a very good run blocker, and receivers need to be able to run block. That is still a very important skill set for the receiver position. Now, here I am talking about receivers, and if his best trait is that he's a run blocker, then he's pretty much not a good wide receiver. So yes, there is merit, of course, to moving on from them. I think the latest couple of signings show that the Jets are willing to have that conversation. What I think will end up happening is they will try to go to Lazard and say, listen, we'll gladly have you back, but we're not going to pay you $11 million this season. Let's find a solution here where we lower the cap hit and you become a free agent next year and move forward that. That's kind of what the Eagles did with Josh Sweat. He had a two-year deal in line. He was going to be paid around $10 million last season, and they restructured the deal so that way last year would be his final year, and he becomes a free agent, signs a large deal with the Arizona Cardinals. I think that's probably what's going to happen with Lazard. They'll probably go to him and say, listen, play ball with us, renegotiate this deal. You'll become a free agent next offseason. We'll lower the cap hit, save a little extra money, or we can cut you right now and save, $11 million as opposed to first release.
1,000%. And I want to mention something else that Darren Muji said between competition. Mentioned that Josh Myers and Joe Tippmann are pretty much going to battle it out. And I think it's a little crazy because Joe Tittman was a second-round pick by this team just a few years ago. Was supposed to come in and play guard, but he's done an excellent job as this team's center over the past 2 years. On the flip side, Josh Myers got paid like a backup in free agency, and he's been a starter with the Packers over the past few years, but he struggled as a starter. I don't get this overall, Nick, when you're going to, for example, you're going to hand Justin Fields, like you mentioned earlier, if you're going to do it for one position, you have to do it to all. If you're going to hand Justin Fields the position as the starting quarterback, why not hand Joe Tittman the job as this team's starting center or guard when he's second-round pick by obviously this previous regime, by the same organization, and has shown arguably over the past few years he's a top 10 center in all of football. I don't get this.
Well, I will say this. It doesn't sound – I kind of looked back at the Muji tape to make sure that I was hearing everything right. It sounds like it's going to be very similar to the Justin Fields thing where this is Tittman's job, but we have a quality backup in place in case Tittman does not succeed.
Right now, on his heels was the quote that was used for Fields,
Tittman had a great year last year. You look at the metrics, you look at the analytics. Pro Football Focus graded him as one of the better run-blocking centers in the National Football League. That's great to see, great to hear. The only focus now is making sure that his pass blocking gets up to snuff. I think at the end of the day, Myers was actually graded a little bit higher than him in pass blocking, so maybe that's the focus. But we got to remember something. The Jets are going to be a run-first team this year. It doesn't really make sense to have the center that is better at run blocking than pass blocking sit the bench, particularly one in the second round. This team, Muji and Glenn want to bring in players in their regime, under their orifice. And players that were drafted in the previous regime aren't really going to be seen in the same light. But when you have good players, you want to keep good players. And I would certainly make Joe Tittman as part of that group of being a good player.
Two more nuggets I want to get into here before we answer your questions and take your calls, Nick. You wrote an article for X Factor a few days ago talking about the Robbie Anderson rumors, the going on CBS and saying he would be interested in a reunion with this team. For those who didn't see that article, pretty much sum it up. And do you think it would make sense? Robbie Chosen. Do you think it would make sense for him?
It's all the same. We all know who we're talking about.
I don't know. He's gone through 6 names. I don't even know, Nick. What's the politically correct term now? But whatever. Formerly known as Robbie Anderson, whatever his name is now, do you think he would make sense to potentially fit it on this Jets team as a depth piece?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it, the undrafted pool, the Jets have had a lot of success with undrafted players, Bryce Huff, Tony Adams, but Robbie Chosen was the first player that showed, hey, the Jets have a good inkling of finding some of this undrafted talent. It was a big mistake from Joe Douglas to let that kid walk in free agency in 2020 because he was the number one target for Sam Darnold. It looked like they were building a rapport, building some chemistry, and that was kind of the thought process of, oh, wait a minute, they're kind of just setting Sam Darnold up to fail without a quality number one receiver. And of course, it ended very, very poorly that final year in 2020. But the way that I look at it for the Jets, the way that I see everything moving forward, they need weapons. And wherever those weapons come from, you have to be able to trust them. And if they want to move on from Allen Lazard, it's a very young receiver room. And I think Chosen, there's going to have to be some questions to answer. He's had some off-field questions moving forward. But as long as he is able to step up in a way and produce in training camp, there's absolutely nothing wrong with giving him an invite and saying, listen, let's see what else he got here.
You mentioned Mason Taylor earlier on in the show, Nick, and you wrote a column earlier today for Jets X Factor detailing why you think he could be a perfect second-round fit for this team. I know you're all about beefing up the trenches in the first round, whether that's offensive line or defensive line. Why exactly is Mason Taylor a great fit for this team as potentially the tight end one and probably the tight end one if he's drafted in the second round?
Yeah, so again, me and my comparisons to the Eagles here, but I look at Philadelphia and what they did in 2013. They needed offensive. They had one more position they needed to figure out, and it was at right tackle. They had the rest of the offensive line figured out, and then they needed a younger, more athletic player over the middle of the field to operate their offense. Philadelphia took Lane Johnson with the 4th overall pick. They could have drafted any other weapon. They could have drafted a quarterback. They didn't. They chose the right tackle. And then in the second round, who do they fall down to? Zach Ertz, the athletic tight end from Stanford. Very athletic, not much of a blocker, needed to sort of get experience at the NFL level. I look at where the Jets are right now, taking Membu or Campbell at 7, solidifying the offensive line, and then taking Taylor, who's a young, athletic, very good pass catcher, kind of similar to Ertz in that way, where they're both athletic, can both operate over the middle of the field, but both need work as run blockers, as sort of that 1-2 combo. I'm going to be doing a mock draft within the next week or so. I only do one mock draft for the Jets a year. I never like doing multiple because I just feel it's a waste of time. There's so many things that change. But be rest assured, you guys all know what my top 2 picks are going to be, because the Taylor pick, the offensive line pick, it almost makes too much sense.
Now, Nick, my question to you mentioned Lane Johnson there. I'm gonna throw another Eagles comp at you. Jordan Mailata was either I think a 7th round pick, a 6th or 7th round pick, and he's obviously developed into a great tackle. So you're gonna mention Lane Johnson, but what about Jordan Mailata? What is led to him having so much success as a 7th rounder? My whole thing is why I don't want Membu is I think you can get better value in one of the later rounds of the draft with an offensive tackle. You're going to mention Lane Johnson. What about Jordan Mailata? What happened there that he was able to develop from a 7th round pick into a top tackle in this league?
Well, we have to remember the conversation about Mailata starts with Jeff Stoutland. Do the Jets have an offensive line coach like Jeff Stoutland? We have no idea. This new guy hasn't really coached the offensive line. Hayden, I'm sure, can do a really good job. The Jets are very confident in him. Is he Jeff Stoutland right now? Definitely not. At least not right now. It could change, but definitely not right now. The other piece to the conversation, this is kind of what gets lost here. The Eagles were looking for replacements of Jason Peters. Jason Peters was getting up there in age. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame career. They weren't expecting Jordan Mailata to be that player. They drafted Andre Dillard the very next season in the 1st round. And the hope was that Dillard was going to be the future behind Jason Peters. Well, 2021 rolls around. Dillard and Mailata both compete for the starting job. Mailata did not really start in his first 3 years. He was essentially a project, never saw the field, never really saw anything, was always inactive. He was essentially placed on the Eagles and said, we're going to keep him on the roster and see what we can do in 3 to 4 years. They put him in a competition against Dillard, and it ends up that he wins the starting job. Dillard becomes a backup, now is off in free agency playing guard. The Jets don't have that. The Jets don't have the guy that they can plug and play as a starter and at right tackle, where you can allow a right tackle to grow. You need a plug and play day one starter that you can trust moving forward. And I look at it, you really do. Chuka Okorafor, quality guy, but we have no idea if he's going to stay healthy. There's a lot of off-field concerns. We don't know if he's going to even end up playing this year at the forefront. So Carter Warren, Max Mitchell, these guys aren't quality starters that you can trust. You want a plug and play guy. Plug and play guys aren't picked early in the draft, aren't picked late in the draft. You get what you pay for an offensive lineman. If you want a starter, a guy that you can trust right away, it's in the 1st round.
Appreciate you tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Nick Faria, Connor Long here with you on NY Flight Jets Talk. Keep the questions coming in. We'll get to those. Pin comment at the top of the chat to call in. Last few minutes here with Nick. We'll take some of your questions. Billy SBC, referring to Fields here, says, but he was 4-2 with the Steelers. He was nothing more than a game manager, an elite defense. That pretty much helped the Steelers propel to victory. He was nothing more than a game manager for that team, Nick.
Let's be fair to Justin Fields, though. He averaged about 20 points as a starting quarterback for the Steelers. They were 4-2. But they benched him because they had promised Russell Wilson the starting job at the beginning of the season, and they wanted to see what he could do. And Russell Wilson, to his credit, averaged more points per game as the starting quarterback than Justin Fields did. Now, we are splitting hairs here because what he did was only put up 2 more points. He averaged 22 points per game as a starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So really it came down to Mike Tomlin really wanting Russell Wilson to be the starting quarterback over Justin Fields. This isn't to say that Justin Fields was a barn burner. He wasn't. He was very inaccurate, very inconsistent. They lost many games during that run because he just simply could not throw the football effectively enough. There was a reason he was benched, and part of that was his play. The other part, though, was that Mike Tomlin wants the veterans for some reason, and it didn't work out. We could talk about Mike Tomlin a different day. I can go a full day of talking about him as a head coach. But the fact of the matter is, yes, he has some positive points to his credit. He's got a positive run overall in his career. Now we need to see him become a traditional passer that can throw the football effectively and efficiently enough throughout the course of the 17-game season.
I will make a comment regarding your Tomlin head coach reference there. I mean, you and I had a similar thought process when it came to the head coach search. Everyone wanted Mike Tomlin because they realized that he goes 9-8 every single year, no matter who his quarterback is, but they forget the guy hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. So when we say we don't want Mike Tomlin, but we would rather gamble on a Josh McCown type guy, people look at us like we have 10 heads, but I would take Josh McCown upside any day of the week, Nick.
A lot of teams are in better options because they went with the young, inexperienced offensive mind over the coach that won a Super Bowl over a decade ago.
They were a year early rather than a year late, and that ultimately benefited them down the road. 1,000%. A few more here. Cadences, I want Warren at 7. Nick, we know where you stand, obviously, with the trenches. How would you feel, though, if the Jets drafted Tyler Warren? Do you think it would be a significant mistake for this team, or how would you view it overall? What would you grade it, I think is the proper term there.
It's so difficult to determine. I mean, if they do, they clearly loved him enough to consider him the Brock Bowers type. And we don't know if they're going to be right at the end of the day. We won't know until the beginning of the season. So I'm not going to sit there and say that it would be a catastrophic mistake that is going to ruin their team forever and it's another Kyle Brady and whatever it is. I'm not going to say that. What I will say, though, is I do think it's a mismanagement of positional value. And yes, in that way, it would be a mistake if Membu is taken immediately after or Campbell's taken immediately after. And essentially, you are still without a starting right tackle, but you solidify the tight end position. Great. You solidified a guy that can get open in the middle of the field. But if you don't have a starter, a quality day one starter that you can trust, you're not going to have the time to get the ball over the middle of the field to begin with.
2 more here. Luppy says, Nick, do you really think the Jets think Fields is the quarterback of the future at this point?
I think the Jets are hoping that happens, but very simply put, they want to wait and see. They've only given him a 2-year deal. There is no guarantee that he succeeds, and they are not banking. They're not sending the farm out to make sure he does. They want to see what he can operate in this offense with Tanner Engstrand. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, there's not a lot of cap manipulation that they have to worry about moving forward into 2026 and 2027.
And with this one here again from Luppy, says O-line versus wide receiver. What's a better crop in free agency or trade after or before the draft? Probably think, I don't know. Tight end.
Free agent receivers can help you out because they understand the offense better. Offensive linemen are always overpaid in free agency. Always. If you have an offensive lineman that hits free agency, they're there for a reason because teams are coveting offensive linemen more than ever before. So if you see one in free agency, everyone's overpaying for it. Chances are they're not going to be very good or they weren't very good to begin with. So wide receiver in free agency, always offensive line in the draft so you can develop.
I want you to address this one comment here, Nick, before we let you go. Matthew Smith says Fields greater than bum-ass Jalen Hurts. Do you think any chance that Justin Fields turns out to be better than Jalen Hurts, Nick?
This comment offended me so bad. I'll go cry on my Super Bowl ring.
Nick, I appreciate you hopping on, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. I'll stay on here a little longer, answer your questions, take your calls. But Nick, appreciate it as always. You got any fun articles you're cooking up here in the next few days?
Got to be focusing on Woody Johnson now. We did a lot of Aaron Glenn this morning, but Woody's going to be the focus. I thought he had a very strong day today with some of these answers, a very matter-of-fact tone, and showing the change of culture is fully underway for New York moving forward.
Appreciate it, Nick. You got any final thoughts?
Nope. Stand packed, everybody. It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks before the draft.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Faria checking in with us here in his weekly spot here on the show. Go follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Faria1720. Check his work. Nick and I both write JetsXFactor.com. Read his NFL stories, Athlon Sports. Nick is the best. Shoot him a follow. Appreciate you guys sticking with us. Smash the like and hit subscribe here on the show. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those. Pin comment at the top of the chat to call in. We covered a lot with Nick, and I think it's about that time. I think it is membership raffle time, baby. I just got to get the wheel. I have the wheel here. One more, the wheel set up. So give me 1 second. Let me pull this up here on the screen quickly. get the wheel set up for our membership raffle. In the meantime, the prizes for next month's membership raffle will be coming out shortly. But every $2.99 super chat, every gifted membership will get you a ticket into our membership raffle. So please, please, please do that if you can. It's a paid way to support the show, but it really, really goes a long way for us here on the program. Let's see if I can pull up the wheel. See if we get it now. Boom! There it is. The wheel of doom, I think is what we're gonna call it. All right, bet. There we go. We got all the prizes here. All the prizes. Jericho Cotchery signed photo. Keyshawn Johnson signed photo. Darrelle Revis signed photo. Altoon signed photo. A Wayne Corbett signed jersey, a free item from our merch store, and a channel emoji. We'll start off with the channel emoji. Whoever this lands on will earn a channel emoji. See? South Philly has won our channel emoji. South Philly, if you're watching, email me, DM me on social media. We'll get you an emoji set up. So South Philly, you've won our channel emoji. Appreciate it. If not, I will just find your logo on YouTube and I can use that as an emoji. South Philly, thank you so much for all your support here on the program. You have won a channel emoji. Now for our free item from the merch store, baby. Whoever's name this lands on will win a free item from the NY Flight Jets Talk merch store of their choice. It went to our guy, Jimmy Jets. So, Jimmy, you have won a free item from our merch store. I will email you. I have your info, but you obviously have to pick the item. So, I will email you and I will let you know, and then we will get you that merch item. Jimmy Jets has won our free item from the merch store. Boom. Now, we'll go over to the Jericho Cotchery signed photo. We'll rock with that. So Cotchery signed photo here. Every name this land on will win a Jericho Cotchery fully authenticated signed photo. That goes to T. Rivera. T. Rivera, you have won a Jericho Cotchery signed photo. Email me, clongpw715@gmail.com. Hit me up in the chat. DM me on social media. You guys each have 1 week to claim your prize. T. Rivera, congratulations on winning a Jericho Cotchery signed photo. Next up here, we'll go over to the Altoon signed photo. Whoever's name this lands on will win an Altoon signed photo. See who this goes to. See. Our number one Austrian Jet fan, ladies and gentlemen, winning an Altoon signed photo. Just want to let you guys know, obviously, Austrian Jet fan hasn't been active in the chat recently. He's dealing with some stuff, so hit me up on Twitter. Obviously, I'm not going to go out here and share the exact details, but he's dealing with some stuff, so keep our number one Austrian Jet fan in your prayers, and I'm happy to see that he won an item here. So shout out to our number one Austrian Jet fan. Hopefully, he's able to return back into the chat soon, but he's dealing with some stuff, so keep Austrian Jet fan in your prayers, and appreciate all your support. Obviously, Austrian Jet fan, and super, super happy that you were able to come away with the prize, brother. So you win the Altoon signed photo. Next up, we'll go Keyshawn. Keyshawn signed photo. Let's see. Whoever's name this lands, I don't know what. Keyshawn Johnson signed photo. Jimmy Jets. Jimmy Jets, baby, comes away with the Keyshawn Johnson signed photo. So Jimmy Jets gets the merch item and he gets the Keyshawn photo. Let's go. Congratulations to our guy Jimmy Jets. Next up, 2 more prizes left, baby. The Darrelle Revis signed photo. Whoever's name this lands on will win a Darrelle Revis signed photo. Let's see it. Whew. Jeffrey R. has won a Darrelle Revis signed photo, baby. Congratulations to Jeffrey on winning the Revis signed photo. You're the best, Jeffrey. I obviously got your info, so I'll just send that out to you. Send that out to you when I can. Next up, the grand prize. the grand prize, baby. Let's go full screen here. And the last prize we're giving away today. The grand prize. Number 80, baby. Wayne Corbett signed jersey. Let's go. Whoever's name this lands on will win a Wayne Corbett signed jersey. Here it is. Here it is, folks. For the Wayne Corbett signed jersey. Oscar the Grouch. Oscar the Grouch, you have 1 week to claim your prize. You win a Wayne Corbett signed jersey. Congratulations, my friend. Oscar the Grouch. Wow. There it is. Our March membership raffle. Appreciate you guys. Always prizes for April 1 coming soon. But if you can, starting now, every gifted membership, every $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket for our April membership raffle. So please, 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 guys, prizes are coming soon. If you can, super chats, memberships really, really help us grow on the channel. Can't thank you enough for all your support. Appreciate you tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We're going to wrap up here soon. So last chance to get your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. Last chance to call in with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. I'm going to wrap up here soon. So thank you all for your support. Those prizes, if you want a prize, will be getting mailed out to you soon. So appreciate it. Tomorrow, I won't be on live. I have to get a tooth pulled out, so I'm probably not going to be able to talk until the afternoon, but I'm pre-recording with a special guest in the morning, and that'll be your show tomorrow at 8 p.m. Since unfortunately I don't want to promise a live show and then me come on here and not be able to talk or whatever. So I'm just going to do pre-recorded tomorrow. Appreciate it as always. Appreciate all your support here on the program as always. No, Caden, it's not a cavity. I have something. I've never had a cavity, which is crazy. Never had a cavity. Has to do with like a shark tooth, I think they call it. I don't know, some nonsense. Anyways, I have to get a tooth pulled. Unfortunately, it's never happened, so I am dreading it, but hopefully it goes okay. So I appreciate you guys supporting me here on the show as always. If you're just tuning in, the great Nick Faria joined us for the first 30 minutes of the show, so shout out to Nick. He joined us in his weekly spot. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, here on the program, that'll do it for me. I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off here on NY Flight Jets Talk, JETS, 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 Jets.